But marijuana is interesting too in that I talked about neurotransmitters, and there's neurotransmitters involved in learning, you know, acetylcholine, the hippocampus, and things that are going on in the brain. And THC, that active ingredient in marijuana, binds to fat, and the cells, our neurotransmitters, the cell walls, are 99% fat. THC binds to the walls of neurotransmitters, and in animal studies thickens them up to about 400 times. So THC has to squeeze through one neurotransmitter and then be received through another one, and it takes about 2 years for that to get out of the brain in animal studies. And it binds to an enzyme in the cell called anandamide, which then slows down the firing of the cell. So brain cells are moving really slow for marijuana users, and then their behavior, likewise, is going to be their kickback and really slow, and they don't care. Stimulant users, brain cells are firing everywhere, and then they're super hyper. So anyway, that's some marijuana stuff. 16-year-old who's been using daily for the last 2 years. And finally, interestingly enough, adult onset. Here's a 21-year-old, supposedly somebody who was 21 years old when they started drinking, drinks on the weekends, and now they're 38 years old. I have some side notes regarding actually teen alcohol use. The Journal of American Medical Association has published a couple years ago, and this has been replicated a number of times. You can Google this really easily. But teenagers who are drinking alcohol during the adolescent years, a part of their brain called the hippocampus shrinks by 10%. That's the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning, and IQ points fall by 5 to 8 points as well on the IQ scales. Enough talking about them, let's talk about you guys a little bit. I'm going to talk about family denial. Now, before you feel picked on in this transition, let me tell you I do a lot of training for psychologists, and it's the same examples. We'll just say therapist denial, drug counselor denial, probation officer denial, school denial, but you're my audience today, parent denial. So your kid's using, and a defense maneuver might be in your mind to kind of disconnect from that unpleasant experience of my kid's using. Well, you know, I used when I was a kid and I outgrew it. Kids will be kids, boys will be boys. It's the teenage years. It's a phase of life. It's a rite of passage. All of those are statements that justify and allow your child to continue to use. I'm just sharing this because if you're finding yourself having these thoughts, it'd be good for you to inventory this and reevaluate this. Or if your significant other has shared this with you and they're sitting in the audience tonight, you want to be elbowing them as I go through these examples. Minimizing. Minimizing is when we discount the severity of their use. So you know they're using, and then you say, well, but at least it's only marijuana. At least it's only alcohol. At least they're still in school. But at least they're still in sports, and then they get kicked out of school and they get kicked out of sports. Well, at least they're not in juvenile hall. Then they go to juvenile hall. You see where it's going? And then there's behaviors that parents can do that actually get in the way. They're behaviors with the intention of helping our child. They're behaviors with the intention of we don't want our child to experience any pain. So it's with love that these behaviors happen, but the effect is that we're participating in their illness and keeping them sick one more day, to put it pretty straightforward. Drug users need to experience consequences to kind of shatter their own denial and to wake up, kind of hit some bottom a little bit and to start to recognize what's going on. So I've had clients who got the DUI and had to sit in juvenile hall for a few days. Parents weren't enabling, parents weren't bailing them out, and they had to sit there for a while. And when I spoke with the kid afterwards, you know, he'd tell me, like, gosh, when I first was there, I was just mad, I was angry, you know, cops are out to get me. But about the second day that he was there, he's like, I know I need to quit drinking. I shouldn't have been hanging out with that kid. I knew I shouldn't have been driving. So they're starting to own their role in the situation a little bit more. And so their denial's breaking down. They're becoming more motivated to make change. But if we hire the hotshot attorney to race in right away and bail them out, and you might be the hotshot attorney, race in right away, bail them out, get them off technicality and all that sort of thing, the kid learns what? Hey, I don't need to own my role for this situation. I'm going to be bailed out every time, so therefore, I didn't learn what I needed to learn. I can just do it all over again. I think it's important to take advantage of teachable moments all of the time. Tonight's a teachable moment. Going home and asking your child, what are you doing on April 20th, is exercising this suggestion of a teachable moment. I learned today, son, what 420 is, and I want to know what your understanding is, and let's have dialogue. Bring your friends over, we'll talk to them too. Opening up that communication, educating them about things going on. So in the newspaper, you know, all the time, there's things in the newspaper, on the news, somebody dies in an auto accident related to drug use, somebody overdoses. Just follow Britney Spears, you know, you'll be fine with teachable moments for your child. So anyway, take advantage of teachable moments. It is not only okay for you to have expectations of your child to be totally sober through the high school years, no drug use at all, no alcohol use at all. It's kind of your responsibility, in my opinion, that we be clear with our children. We understand the pressures that are out there, and each year from 15 to 16, 16 to 17, 17 to 18, we understand that there's more pressures. And our family values are X, Y, and Z, and our expectations are X, Y, and Z. Abstinence from alcohol, marijuana, cocaine, other drugs. And if you use, you know, you're not going to be driving, you know, or whatever the consequence is going to be. I actually had a parent that many years ago never suspected that their child was using, but somehow they just had this family rule or something that when it comes time for the driver's license, we're going to drug test. And they found out that their child was using. And I thought, wow, what a good idea. I mean, just as to get a license, that drug test, use that as an opportunity, you know, use that as an opportunity. But have clear expectations about this is what we expect, and if you violate these expectations, here's what the consequences are going to be, or here's how we're going to intervene if you are using, if you are drinking, that sort of thing. I have a book over there on the table, How to Help Your Child Become Drug-Free. It's a $12 book, easy read. And I have a whole chapter for parents on how to be on the same page, as, you know, sometimes parents aren't on the same page, kind of polarized. One's more lenient, one's more strict, kind of start overcompensating for each other. Gets even more polarized and the kid bolts down the middle or overly aligns with the lenient parent. But how to understand how to work together and how to be clear with really good expectations and put that together in a framework. And all the information I share tonight is actually in that book. Seek parent support if you know your child has a substance abuse issue. You know, that's a hard time for the family. Everybody in the family is affected when somebody's using, and we all need support. If you're getting help for your child who might have a substance use issue, seek out professionals who are specialized or who are trained in working with adolescents with substance abuse issues. Just because they're an adolescent or child psychologist doesn't mean they have the training. So you really want to do your homework with that. Remember, your child needs your understanding and support during this time. So what that means is what I've been saying so far is have clear boundaries. A little bit of tough love, you know, you need to have some boundaries. But there also needs to be the love and needs to be the support. So if you do have a child that has a substance abuse issue and you are being very clear with boundaries around that and doing what you can to hold them accountable, still attuned to they are still growing children that are struggling emotionally and are having a tough time just being an adolescent and now dealing with this issue, and they still need support with what's going on. As resentful as you would feel when your child's using, as angry as you can become, you're still the parent. And what happens as a dynamic sometimes with the families that I work with is parents become so unraveled about their child's drug use that now the kid not only has to fix themselves, but then they feel the responsibility to fix you and take care of your emotional needs, and it makes the situation more complicated. That's actually a much sicker of a situation. It's not the kid's responsibility to fix your anxiety, to fix your depression. It's not good for a kid's psychological development. So we get support as parents to make sure that we can parent from a centered place, not from an angry place, not from a resentful place. It's hard. It's really hard. I have so much compassion for the parents that I work with that, you know, adolescence is a tough time for parents, period, let alone with the drug use stuff going on. Thank you. That's it for me tonight. I'll answer questions over there later.
If you'd like more information about this program, go to the website www.recoveryhappens.com. If you'd like to purchase a copy of John Daly's book, How to Help Your Child Become Drug-Free, it is also available on the website, or call 916-966-4523.